Who are they more worried about? Where do they feel more threatened? A society that's functioning on alcohol and drugs and gambling addictions? Or are they more worried about being exposed from a fully functioning society with highly functioning members from men and women, fully sober, using their full brain capacity? Which one, if you were in a position of power, would seem more threatening to you? Of course, it's going to be the capable, highly functioning members of society, the fully focused members of society that always could point out when something's wrong, could take action, could do it and go about it in the right way. Those are the ones that are going to be more threatening. So their objective is to keep you like the crackhead, bent over, incapable, unable to do anything, even if you wanted to, even if you had the worst intention.
What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Jusintheknow podcast, where we make knowledge your most strongest weapon.
As always, welcome back, folks. Your boy Just over there, your boy Nas over here. Today, we're talking about some shenanigans.
Yes. So today we're going to talk about the new age of self-destruction. So before, a lot of people had different vices that kept them from, being the productive individual in life as they should be. And now they just keep adding to the pot specifically. Like liquor wasn't enough. Drugs wasn't enough. Sex got overly commodified. And now self-destruction or just destruction of the individual by itself is a trend now, unfortunately.
Right, and what I do want to start off by talking about is what the role of, I guess you could say, the one percenters / the government, where their mindset is, what their approach is, and what their philosophy is to what they're doing. And then we're going to talk about, this new plague of gambling addiction, right? So from the government standpoint, Western governments and, big corporations, they have a large motive to always find a way to place some poison within society and just watch people consume it. And what I mean by that is, again, mentioning the drugs and the alcohol, that wasn't enough poison to feed society and to make it, and to glorify it and to make it commonplace and to make it something that the masses consume. That wasn't enough. The addiction to sex and pornography and just poor behavior, right? And the weakening of the mind and the human body. They needed a new element. Right, they needed to introduce a new element because there was a lot of people that were still, above all those things that I just named. And when you consider the mentality of a hustler, of an ambitious individual trying to make money, chase excellence, chase growth, the idea of making quick money is very appealing. And using their money specifically to make more money is very, very appealing. That's really the dream for everybody, and from the simple standpoint, right? From just a simple 1 + 1 = 2, use your money to make more money sounds great. So what they did was they used that same exact element to infect people with this gambling addiction by glorifying it, legalizing it, and making it a rampant plague that doesn't seem to have any end in sight. Right, gambling has become nationwide, specifically here in the U.S. It's legalized, and it's very well structured. It's advertised for in a large manner. Right, there's a huge volume of advertisement, being pushed onto the gambling scene, as well as it seems to be a fun vice for people to have. That on the surface level, it doesn't look as destructive as the drugs. Doesn't look as destructive as the alcohol. It doesn't look as destructive as, the uncontrollable sex drive. It doesn't have that picture. It doesn't give off that vibe from a surface level. So governments and big corporations, they're kind of playing off of that, where it's like, how can we get people to self-destruct in another way? We need something new. So here you have it. Here's gambling on a silver platter, and just go ahead and consume it. And they're doing a great job, because I know a lot of people that went deep into their 20s and into their mid 30s, and they were never a victim of drugs, alcohol, or, you know, not being able to control their desires and be like losers essentially, and, you know, into this R-rated stuff or the prostitution / you know, the sex industry. They're not a part of any of that. And then once gambling came about and became a trend, now they're stuck in the same rut, if not worse, because gambling might actually be the worst addiction of all addictions. And now their life is either plateauing or nosediving, and their progress is completely canceled out, right? And they're in those same life, you know, scenarios, rock bottoms that a drug addict will find themselves in and an alcoholic will find themselves in. And on top of all this, the corporations are making a killing, and the government is getting exactly what they want, exactly what the doctor prescribed when it comes to how to keep society
At a certain
at a low level and keep them from, you know, elevating themselves and keep them basically indebted to us in some way and reliant on us in some way and keep them in that hamster wheel.
So there's one thing I want to go into specifically when it comes to just gambling. It actually transcends to the over-sexualization of the market as well too. But it's conveniency, right? Before, when you wanted to gamble, you had to go to a casino where it was legalized. That's the only place you could gamble legally. Or you had your people that went to underground events and this, that, and the third. But most people didn't have access to that or didn't even know that it exists, right? But the problem is that they made it so convenient now to gamble that it's like all you got to do is sign up to one of the many different gambling sites that you can, and you could gamble your money away. And they made it so easy to where you can put up money in a quick sense, right? So now everybody could do it. So you give people accessibility to do such things, they're gonna do it all the time. They're gonna do it just like with the over-sexualization of social media, right? Now it's before you had to go to a site to specifically go to porn or whatever have you. But now you could go to Twitter, you can go to different websites and it's very easily accessible. Now, specifically with the gambling, right? Why it's probably one of the most biggest detriments to society and to the individual by itself. You got to look at the overall perspective of someone's mind, the dopamine factor, right? The fact that you could put this amount of money to get X amount of dollars within a couple of seconds is what most people dream they could do. So the constant hope of putting up this money to chase, because guess what? You could be down 500, but the next play that you make, you could be up 30,000, right? And people will continuously chase that every single day. Just like the lottery. A lot of people play the lottery, probably play their entire life, never fucking won, right? But then you have some people that played for 20 years, hit once, and that changed their entire life.
Right.
So once they keep on chasing this type of, let's say this dopamine factor, the fact that they could make it big, a lot of people is going to fall victim to that.
Yeah, what it sounds to me is like it's essentially the vaping form of, you know, of smoking, right? So how vaping was, you could vape in the bathroom, vape on the way to work, vape on the low, hide it from your parents easy, hide it from your friends easy. It's with you 24/7 in your pocket. All you got to do is just reach, vape, get your quick nicotine fix. And you know how the vaping world really hit the younger generation by storm. And a lot of people that otherwise wouldn't be smokers of any form or any type had developed nicotine addictions very early on, and very severe addictions at that, right? So I compare like the vaping to the smoking world the same way that the gambling is to the addiction world, in the sense that it looks completely different than the rest of addictions. Like what other addiction other than gambling has that element, right? Where it introduces that you could put money to make money. A drug addict never seen the opportunity or never looked at their vice as, oh, I'm gonna put this amount of money into using drugs, again, the consuming of drugs, right?
To be a beneficial
and
thing.
I'm gonna become, you know, times 10 my money. It was always, I'm doing this for recreational use, and also to escape whatever hardship and bad emotions I'm living through, right? And alcohol, the same thing, and sex, the same thing. They're all escapes, right? And gambling is an escape, but it doesn't it doesn't show up, and it's not shown in that same way. And you, on a surface level,
So let me
you don't
say-
see it that way. You see it as a way to make money, and it turns into the worst thing you ever
So
did.
let me say this: it is an escape, right? It's an escape. Gambling is an escape of a financial responsibility to see, like, okay, I don't have to learn a skill. I don't have to go to school. I don't have to put X amount of hours just to get this.
Do it at
capped-
work. Do it in the
Yeah.
bathroom. Do it.
do this capped
While you're
amount
driving.
of let's say financial gain, right? Now with gambling, barriers of entry is low as hell, right? There's no extra work into it. Maybe if you're let's say not experienced gambler, but more sort of a smarter gambler, you might look into the sports, might look into the numbers, might look into what's the biggest, highest chances for the games that you play.
Where's your
stuff like that.
advantages?
Advantages,
It
such
seems
as
like a
not-
new industry of how to make money.
But it's easier.
That's what it shows itself
But it's
as.
easier to do that than it is to go get a skill to make a certain gain. So, and then the problem is the multipliers from that little bottom amount of work is huge, more than you would make at a job at a certain point in time.
It definitely fits the American dream,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if not even better, it sounds way better than that. Again, at the very surface level, the first impression you get, you don't when you talk to somebody, specifically if you target the group of people who again don't have other prior addictions, weren't drug addicts, weren't alcohol addicts, weren't sex addicts, like good functioning, highly functioning members of society that got into gambling with this last 5 to 6 year trend of the gambling wave. A lot of them, they didn't see it as, this is a vice that it's just, they grew up and lived 25, 35 years of life without any forms of addiction. And now all of a sudden they're just hooked by the balls at the hands of this new gambling wave. And the reason why is because they got fooled. They didn't get fooled by the drugs. They didn't get fooled by the alcohol. They didn't get fooled by the sex industry. They didn't get fooled by entertainment industry. They didn't get fooled or brainwashed by whatever other, low-level mentalities the government tries to, breed us to develop. But they did get fooled by the gambling industry.
Yeah.
They did see it as, I make good money. I can make a lot extra money easily. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't take extra work and extra studying, and it doesn't take extra skill learning and extra development of your person, of your being. It doesn't take any of that. It's just whatever money you have laying around, whether it's $1, $1 million, if you use it to try to make more money, you could times 10, you could times 50, you could times 100, you could get a life-changing win that could set you up forever, right? That's what it presents itself as. And that's why it's able to fool a lot of people and get them into the addiction. Before we move on from, the addiction side of actual gambling, I do want to mention that if you do your studies and you look into the research done behind the effects of gambling addiction on the human brain, it is the hardest and the most damaging addiction, because what it does to the physical wiring and the construction, the way it reconstructs your brain from within, right? The folds in your brain. What it does is never before seen. You can't have that type of activity going on in your brain at the hands of drug and alcohol and whatever other substance abuse or consumerism via sex industry or entertainment industry. All the other forms of addiction, they don't have that impact, that physical impact that gambling addiction has on your brain. So do your research on that, and you could come back and quote me or thank me.
So now a little bit off the gambling specifically, and why actually people revert to stuff like this. Not revert, but actually go into, addictions such as gambling and drugs and everything like that. Is the fact that there's no, right now it's a trend to not be accountable for your actions or your thoughts or feelings right now. It's like, oh, whatever you feel, whatever you want to do, you can do it, and there's no repercussions. Everybody's being treated like a child now, right? There's people that, are going against the fence of offending people. And this is one thing that I say for the entire time, right? If it's offensive to the point where it's attacking somebody's character, it's not cool, right? But if there's a truth to it specifically, and that is the reality we all live in, Who cares if it offends you? It's the truth, right? You can't run away from reality. It's time to grow up as adults and understand that your feelings are not facts. Your opinions are not true all the time, right? And whatever you feel is a bias doesn't mean that everybody feels the same way as you. And just because they don't feel the same way as you doesn't mean you can attack them. Doesn't mean that you can go after their character or wild out or crash out in a public setting because somebody, offended your feelings or didn't think a way as you should, right? We're adults now. And then we have this victim mentality that everything's against us, right? Whatever you have in the outcome as your life, yes, outside factors do play on your opportunities and your quote unquote luck, as you would say, right? But you have a big factor on yourself, on what the things that you put yourself in and responsibilities that you put upon yourself. And you have to take it as such. You got to take some, stand on some words for yourself as an adult, man. And a lot of people are avoiding responsibilities too. This is the reason why all of these vices exist. People drink to get away from having to actually think about the responsibilities that they have to enact, right? Same thing with drugs, right? Now, the gambling portion. Maybe you wouldn't have to gamble if you were financially responsible. Maybe if you didn't spend so much goddamn money on these things that you don't need. Maybe you didn't have to gamble. Because yes, gambling as a leisure, right? If you want to make any money, if you budget yourself for that specifically, if that's what you want to do, that's cool. Because that was money that you would have spent somewhere else as a leisure. But if you're throwing away money that you need for your responsibilities on the factor of trying to, make a life-changing decision, that's fucking stupid. My thing is, right? And this is where I say people don't, do research and context about certain things in life, right? And whether they should make certain decisions. Look at the percentages that you might be able to win when it comes to gambling. Once you see that number on a piece of paper on the screen, you'll be like, damn, this is fucking stupid.
I bet you they'll gamble against that number too.
Oh, 100%. Oh, yes, I'm special. I'm different.
I'm going to do what the 99.9% couldn't do.
Couldn't do. You probably have a 0.08% chance of actually hitting your whatever you put as a thing. Because you really think that you go to a casino thinking that you're going to have the odds against the house? Hell no. The odds are stacked against you, probably 4-1. And it's made that way on purpose so that the time that you actually hit them for a lot of money, they done made 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 times that money. So that little win that you had is nothing to them.
It's a portion of the money that you already lost to them.
Exactly.
So they're not even paying you out. You're getting some of your money back. And they're getting most of the money, right? And when it comes to, that escapism culture, right, where people are trying to escape the discomfort, not sit through their problems, not think through their problems, not isolate and reconsider, regroup, and, make a decision for what is the next best move to make in their life. The idea of turning money into exponentially more money seems like the best decision, right? Okay, I'm in a jam. I don't feel too good about myself, but I got a couple extra $100 that, I'm willing to take a chance on. But, if I invest into a stock or something long-term, a couple hundred might turn into a couple thousand years down the road. Nah, I'm good on that.
I don't have a year's to wait.
What else could I really do? You can't make any big purchases and make any big money moves with a few $1,000. You can't start a business, especially when you're on the lazy side. Mm-hmm. So gambling just presents itself as the golden option. Mm-hmm. This is the way to go. What do you got? $300-400 a month extra to spare, and it's not really extra to spare, but that's the information you feed yourself. That's the lie that you tell yourself. Mm-hmm. What could I do with that to maybe get me out of this rut? What mm-hmm. could I do with that to be able to come home and tell my wife or my girl or my son that, our life is going to change. The only thing is gambling. If I could turn this 300-400 into 1,000 and then 10,000 and then 100,000 within a month, right? That's how it sounds. It sounds so good. But back to the mindset behind that, the thoughts associated to this decision, to this behavior, to this addiction, it's always this idea of trying to get yourself out of your current situation. And instead of choosing the, hard work, the grit and grind route, instead of choosing the self-development, the education, the improving your skills route, the, becoming a better communicator and people person, instead of choosing those routes, that the same people who are pushing the gambling on you, they actually practiced all these things. They actually developed the skills. They actually developed this, this pattern in their mind where they have become accustomed and used to studying human patterns and nature. They developed all those things in their own character and in their own being, where they were able to pinpoint the gambling as this is a new element to really disrupt and poison the society, while we profit and while we keep them stuck in that same everyday loop for years on end, never progressing, never getting themselves, never breaking free of the chains that society is always trying to tie you to.
So I want to say, like, who's actually being detrimented the worst from this specifically? Not just gambling specifically, just the vices that this world is trying to put on us specifically, right? You have the young adults, right?
Early in their life with, not that much risk in terms of if they were to, go broke, they don't have anybody.
Not even just that. They're transitioning from child to an adult, right? As a child, you were coddled. You're still naive, right? You're very easily manipulated if somebody wants to do so, right? So now you take the accountability aspect of it, right? And you transition that over to being an adult. They're still a child at the end of the day, right? They still have the mentality of a child. So they're going to take way more risk because they don't have any responsibilities, right? They're more susceptible to drugs and outside influences because they're not used to having responsibilities, having that stress, having the mentality to sacrifice specifically, right? And then you have the working class, right? So the people that are past their young adult stage and they have somewhat of responsibilities, maybe a little bit of more responsibilities, right? They're looking at it like this: the rat race of continuously working, nothing is changing. And some people, when their back is against the wall, they make some crazy ass decisions. And that's where we have the drugs to escape. We have the temptations that people want to get into because they're not getting what they want, right? Specifically right now. And they just say, fuck it, I'm going to do what I want to do. And then you have the other people, again, the back of the wall specifically, is without guidance. If they have no structure in their life, they don't have no religion to have no structure for them. They don't have no sense of morals or need to keep up a certain image or a certain standpoint for someone else. Because usually when it's for yourself, you don't really care too much. But when you have other people that rely on you specifically, you don't make no rash decisions.
So you as an example, as some type of idol, someone to look up to, you start reconsidering making bad decisions like that. You don't want to influence your young nephew, your young niece, your younger brother, your sister, whatever, the younger generation of, the immediate loved ones surrounding you. Usually people don't want to be that bad influence. But one, we've already been desensitized to shit like that. People don't care, and people are completely shameless nowadays. So that you might as well throw that out the window, right? In terms of like the shame aspect, right? People don't have no shame, especially like we're in probably the most shameless, area of the world. This specifically, this US,
time frame,
this
yes.
US, Canada part of the entire globe. We're probably the most shameless people walking this earth. And then, you throw into that, the ability to cope with stress, the need for instant gratification. There's so many things that play into it. And gambling presents itself as, the number one way to overcome this. This is it. This is your chance.
This is one thing that I want to go into, right? And this is the factor of why it's allowed specifically, right?
Okay.
First and foremost, it's going to be profit. If they could make money off of whatever you're doing as an individual for these corporations, they're going to do so, right? Then you have control of other people, which is both between the corporations and the government specifically, right? And distractions. If they're distracting you from being a number one potential provider to society or a beneficial asset to society, If most people were so, they would be more smarter. And the distraction is to keep you from actually learning knowledge, right? So this is what I want to go into. If it plays on your humanity, they're going to attack it, right? Temptation, dopamine is the biggest thing that people is the hardest to control. So guess what? Financial gain has a dopamine a dopamine affection on your brain, right? Temptations, you have everything being over sexualized now. People, the biggest thing for people is to control is their urges sexually. So for them to profit on that, it's so easy. If they put it in your face every single day, it's going to over sexualize you, and now you're more susceptible to going into those type of temptations, right? Then you have the drugs, you have the alcohol, right? Of the mind state completely. Now, nobody wants to feel a certain way, and we're going to probably another episode of that specifically on how everybody's more, they're moving less towards logic and more towards feelings.
Feelings/desires,
right? And then you have the mental health aspect of it, right? It's going to be on a decline. You have more people that are not mentally stable. It's easier to control them, right?
Right.
And that's the long-term aspect of it, right? You're going to have people that are going to be in the rut financially, not being able to come out, right? You're going to have people that have no stability, right? They're not going to be able to have no foundation, and you don't have a foundation, you don't build a family. You can't keep a family at that, right? And you keep everybody individuals. And that's the best part for a corporation to have. More individuals spend money if they're by themselves, right? Once you have a family, you have things to think about, so you won't make these rash decisions on gambling, on spending your money on sexual desires, leisures, and stuff like that, because you have a family unit to take care of. You remove that family unit from the situation. Now you could do whatever you want without no backlash.
Yeah, to make it more relatable and a more real life, commonly, heard scenario and commonly seen scenario. If you really want to put it into perspective, consider this. If you're anybody, I could say like 16 and up, and you have anybody around you, whether they're a friend or somebody you just know, you've known for 5+ years, specifically ask yourself, anybody that I know personally that stopped living a certain low quality lifestyle and started living a more clean lifestyle and a more structured lifestyle with more meaning, and they're more sincere and more serious as an individual about their own well-being. Ask yourself, why did they do that? I can guarantee you 99 out of 100 times it's always because they had a family, they found God, they had an epiphany where it gave their life more meaning and it put more weight on their shoulders, and they could not afford to indulge in those prior habits, those prior addictions, those prior vices. They stopped drinking because they wanted to turn into the man for their family. They stopped the drug abuse because, they were down on their ass and they were always strung out and they were always needing something from somebody and begging on the street for money and blah, blah, blah. And now their whole life changed for the better because they have more responsibility, more deeper meaning, more purpose. They are more driven. They are more focused. Now, the reason why I say that is from the powerful perspective, the perspective of power and control and, being able to rule your society. Consider this. Are you, as an individual, more concerned for your health and your safety and your power and your control? If you are walking down the street, right? Where do you feel more threatened, right? If, let's say, you were wearing a nice outfit, it shows you got a couple dollars in your pocket, right? And you're a risk of getting robbed. In which situation will you feel more threatened, right? Situation A, you walk down a street early at night. Doesn't have to be late. It doesn't have to be the bad hours of the night, deep, the dark hours, the graveyard shift of the night. Regular nighttime, after sundown, right? After sundown, You're walking through the town road, the main town road, right? And it's littered with crackheads and alcoholics sitting down, bent over, leaned forward, like completely out of whack, completely out of sort, right? Are you going to be a little uncomfortable? Sure. Are you going to feel a little bit like disgusted, like, this isn't the cleanest place? Sure. Are you going to actually be concerned for your belongings, for your being, for your safety, for your health, for your control? Do you feel powerless in that situation? No. You feel like you still have total control. Like, ain't no drunkie, ain't no dope head going to just run up on me, and he can't even. He doesn't have the capability. Now, situation B, right? You're walking down the street and there's completely functional, healthy, live, energetic, aware, active individuals that they might not seem like criminals, but had they wanted to commit anything against you, had they wanted to press you physically, had they wanted to pressure you, would they physically be able to carry that out? Are they capable? Ask yourself, in which situation would you feel threatened? Now, relate that to how the government views society. Who are they more worried about when it comes to where do they feel more threatened? A society that's functioning on alcohol and drugs and sex addictions and porn addictions and gambling addictions? Or are they more worried about being exposed by overthrown, for example, or rioted against from a fully functioning society with highly functioning members from men and women, fully sober, using their full brain capacity, always thinking ahead, always developing themselves, always learning more, doing more, becoming more, earning more, living cleaner lifestyles? Which one, if you were in a position of power, would seem more threatening to you? Of course, it's going to be the capable, highly functioning members of society, right? The fully rejuvenated and energetic and fully focused members of society that always could point out when something's wrong, could take action, could do it and go about it in the right way. Those are the ones that are going to be more threatening. So their objective is to keep you like, that analogy of the crackhead, bent over, incapable, unable to do anything, even if you wanted to, even if you had the worst intentions. If you're strung out on dope and you're a grown-ass adult, you couldn't hurt a fly if you wanted to. You're going to swing, you're going to miss. And apply that to the mental side. Even if you wanted to think of a way to get yourself out of the situation, to when do actual dope heads run off on a plug? When do actual alcoholics actually do something major to threaten somebody who has power over them? It's very rare. They can't actually do it. They might think, they might have the worst intentions, they might have the most fogged head, right? Mm-hmm. And the most fogged mind, but they can't carry out that act because they're not in the state where they could. They couldn't even do something, even on their best day, they couldn't do something that would overthrow the power or challenge the power that has control over them. Mm-hmm. So from the government standpoint, that's where their incentive is, right? They keep you weak. They keep you confined. They keep you starving. They keep you thirsty. They keep you hungry for something that's not even real, a dream. They keep you thinking about anything and everything except how to escape the chains that they have made for you.
Now, I want to say about the part where you said about life having a meaning, right? And this is the reason why people fall victim to a lot of vices and bad habits. Now, for the people that do change their life, they see something for the future. A lot of these people now today, they don't even think about a future. They only really care about next week. And this is the reason why they make certain decisions, make certain irrational decisions because if you're really thinking about it, right? If you really cared about your future, right? You wouldn't make half the decisions that you're making now. And the crazy part is, let's let's go back and not even think about the vices and the things that are detrimental. Something as simple as making the wrong career choice, or going for your passions instead of going for something that's profitable, that's actually going to benefit your financial foundation, making stupid purchases. That's so very minuscule in the bigger picture because people are making mistakes that way. Now you add the sex, you add
the poison,
the poison, you add the the very strong influencers in your life, the things that are you're chasing a dopamine, chasing a high, because all of these are chasing high, whether it's on drugs or it's chasing for money. It's a high, it's a fix that you get that you constantly want to chase. You keep somebody in that state of mind frame, they're never going to make decisions for the future. They're never going to have a stable, balanced life. And that's why you got to really sit down and really process it specifically. Do you care about your own life enough? Do you care to see yourself in the next 10, 20, 30 years? If you actually cared, you would make the honest and absolute effort to learn more about yourself, to learn about the things that are threatening to you, the things that have a bad influence on you, and keep those farther away from you. But some people don't even know that there's a threat in the first place because they don't even know.
Yeah. Listen, the gambling trend's actually been something that's I've been picking up on, around me, and the toll that it's taken on, the people that I know and the society that I live in. And it's really rubbed me the wrong way because I'm one of those observant people who's just asked myself questions like, how did such a proper lady, such a proper gentleman, well-educated, sober individual get himself into this mess, right? Or get herself into this mess. Yo, I swear I feel like the ladies probably gamble more than us. Maybe not in terms of dollar amount, but in terms of, just percentage and addiction to it. I'm sure they be gambling with everything nowadays. But anyway,
not with specifically gambling though.
I don't know, brother.
Because if you see a casino, bro, it'd be more men, bro.
But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the new trend of gambling, of accessibility straight from your phone and the ease of it, like how the vaping took over the smoke. How many chicks that would have never put no smoke and nothing in their mouth? And
that's true. But then you have, like, say for sports betting example, that's more a male watched sport or male watched thing specifically. So there's definitely more men betting on sports than there are women, because women don't even know about. Some women will sit down there and don't even know nothing about
I don't know.
sports.
I would beg to differ from this standpoint. We know from consumer statistics, women are the biggest consumers of entertainment and pastime and blah blah blah, and that throws that falls into that category, gambling, right? Like when which 30-year-old is going to spend more money on just random shit? A guy or a girl, and if they both make the same amount of money, who's spending more on just random unnecessary shit overall?
Definitely.
Yeah. So anyway, back to what I was saying before is that the gambling things just rubbed me the wrong way because they found a new crack, right? Where it's like, okay, we couldn't get them via drugs. We couldn't get them to fall via alcohol. We couldn't, the sex and the entertainment.
We almost got them. We almost got them in a tight hole, but
he had a little
we needed more. We needed more.
He had a little 3 or 4 phase.
We need more. We need more.
That didn't work, right? He's still, executive manager. He's still a CEO. He's still doing well in life. He's still got his house, his car, his family. How can we break this? How can we infiltrate the sacred nature of what this person has built? Why don't we just present an opportunity where they could make more money so easily without adding a new element to their life? They don't need to learn more. They don't need to take on a new job. They don't need to take on new responsibility, workload. They don't need to learn a new industry, right? It's just roll the dice and see what happens. And, it sounds so good. You'll make a lot of money. So what gambling has done to people and the observations that I made during this gambling trend and this new gambling poison wave that I would like to call it is honestly pretty disturbing. And I really pray for people with those habits where it's like taking over their life, where it's putting them in the same, the typical, right? The typical scenario or projection we give for somebody who's, an addict of some sort is, okay, this person's 18 years old. he's fully blown drug addict. By 23, he's going to be either in jail or rehab. By 28, he's going to have a few instances of overdose if he makes it even to 30. That's the type of predictions we make, right? And those are the type of assumptions we make about that person. Gambling is even worse now. Like if somebody starts gambling at 22, 23 years old, and they're just starting their working life, right? You could accurately predict that if this person continues this trend, by 30, they're going to be in a worse position than they are today. Right now, they're 23, just starting to pay off their debt and just starting to get a little bit of a hold on their life and some traction, right? And have a chance at making it. If they continue on this path, by 30, they're probably going to, if they even remain their job, if they even keep their job, they're probably not going to make any leaps in their job. They're probably not going to have any type of assets. They're probably not going to have any lifestyle, like real life, noteworthy improvements. They're probably going to go into debt, and they're probably going to go into the other addictions that really just those are the finish 'em kind of things.
Yeah,
those are the Mortal Kombat finish 'em kind of things.
It's to end it off.
Where
go over bang.
Yeah, they're going to develop and they're going to fall into the other things. Same way some people, fall into alcoholism and drugs when, some crazy scenario happens in their life. They have an episode, they have a certain hardship, and it just puts them on just the absolute nosedive, on suicide watch, right? And gambling is going to do that for a lot of people. And I hate to say it's already done that, and it's only growing. You see more breaking news and new things that are related to the gambling industry that just make it way more enticing. Like every month there's something new that just makes it so much juicier, so much tastier looking. Of course, not the reality of it, but it just that's the sense it gives off.
So I want to say, to end it off specifically, right, and we're going to go into the gambling aspect of it. Well, not going to, but specifically for the gambling aspect, right? This is how, because drug intervention, alcohol intervention, they have certain things to do to stop you from doing such things, right? I don't think they really have a gambling intervention.
They don't have a strong one.
Not yeah. So you know what the strong one is for you that you could do yourself, that you don't have to go see somebody about,
and you could undo it.
Yeah. Look at your bank account. Look how many transactions you have made to whatever gambling institution that you have, and look how much money of earnings have you inputted into your account. Look at that for the past year, 6 months, 2 months, however long you've been gambling. And literally look at that number of how much times you deposited money into those institutions. If that doesn't steer you far the fuck away from doing that thing, I don't know what else can help you.
You know what's even easier than that?
Or just delete your account.
Ask yourself, do I have a drug habit? No. Do I have an alcohol habit? No. Am I spending money on sex and entertainment?
No.
Like a absolute freak? Like a pig who has no control? No. So where's all my money going? And obviously, if you're dabble in gambling, you ask yourself these questions and your answer is going to be gambling. Now, if you don't have that, that's another topic that we talk about in so many other ways on different episodes, money management and whatnot. But if the only vice you seem to have right now is gambling, and you're not convinced yet how detrimental it is and how destructive it is, you could, instead of looking at the actual numbers, which I highly suggest more than what I'm saying, but if you're too pussy, you're too scared to do that, right? You're just reluctant to do so, then just do that. Ask yourself a few questions in your head between you and yourself, right? I don't drink. I don't have a drug habit. I don't this. I don't travel a lot. I'm not buying designer clothes. Mm-hmm. I'm not in major debt. I'm not. But I do gamble a little. So where's all my money going? Boom, your answer is gambling. Mm-hmm. You're not gambling a little. You think you're gambling a little because
it's a lot.
It has that. That's the best. That's the best element of gambling. That's the advantage it has over other addictions, where
you can't see it.
It is so much more subtle. Mm-hmm. Right?
Can't see it.
It doesn't have that immediate feel. So nobody's gonna see you tomorrow morning after you just lost $1,000, right? And be like, damn, bro, you just look like you lost $1,000.
You can't
But
see it.
they're gonna tell you look strung out. They're gonna look
Yeah.
like, damn, bro, you look hungover. Damn, bro, you look like, you look like if you're going through a divorce or something, you look like, life is rocking you. If you just lost $1,000 yesterday and $2,000 in the last month and $7,000 since 3 months ago, nobody's gonna look at you and say, right, because it doesn't have that. It has the subtlety to it. That's the advantage it has over the other, which is why I said they've been having a really big push for this gambling industry, and in order to poison the people with this addiction is because it's so subtle and it gets you in a way that the other addictions can't get you. It gets through you, it gets into you, it spreads, right? And it makes you feel like there's nothing going on.
Now that you said, ask yourself these questions, I'm going to go the opposite. Ask yourself these questions when you're sober from all of these things. When you've been drinking, when you've been under the influence of drugs, when you've been into your temptations sexually, and when you have been gambling, right? Gambling, not so much, but for the other three, right? When you're sober, when you're not actually conducting these things at this current point in time, ask yourself this question. How many opportunities did I squander from enacting in these activities? How much productivity have I lost from being within these activities? When you sit down and be real with yourself, don't think that, we could push it off to the side and think about it later and not be real with yourself. Actually self-assess the things that you're doing within your life and see how you're shorting yourself. And then you as an able-bodied person, a smart individual, I would hope that you would be smart if you're watching this video, or somebody's actually trying to seek help, you would look at those activities and be like, this is not good for me. And dead it right there.
Right.
It's just that simple.
And usually we do ask people to share, the answers to a lot of our questions, in our comments, whatever. Honestly, if you go and you run that little self-assessment, I don't even think you should really share with us, man. I think keep that to yourself and just make the improvements you need. Now, if you would like to, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But am I encouraging you to share it, man? It might be better to just put that one in the grave and let it die and never look back. If you could do that self-assessment and really bury it, right, and bury, put the skeletons in the closet away for good, then don't keep them in the closet. Do something with them. Yeah, do it, and don't share it with us, and just, elevate your life and more power and blessings to you, really.
The last thing I would say before we close out is have a self-meeting with yourself every single month to self-assess. You do that every single month, and you actually make the effort to change your ways, to adapt, to add new things into your life that's going to stop you from reverting to that. Every month, you should get at least 5% better at it. And hopefully, never do it again. But if you don't have those self-assessment meetings, you don't know what the hell is going to be wrong with you. And that's another episode of the Just Know podcast, where we acknowledge your most strongest weapon. If this video has given you any value, please share this to anyone that may need this help. Anybody that has a vice that you think may need to listen to this, comment, because we always want to hear your responses. We, are trying to get better every single day, and vice versa with you guys. We can always help each other. And then for the algorithm, so that this video could get pushed to more people that do need this.
And what I do want to say before we sign off is try not to let the higher powers, and I hate saying those words, but just for relevance sake, try not to let the people in control and the power figures and the control figures and the money figures and government figures, try not to let them ruin your life in such a severe way where you're really crippled and you're almost reached the point of no return, right? Don't let it get to that extent. I'm praying for you. I'm sure you could get over whatever you're going through. And I think I'm gonna start doing this more often, right? If you have a lady in your life who's contributing to any of these negative aspects, negative addictions, negative influences, send her this video. Tell her I said, wrap your ass up, all right? And never talk to her again.
Yeah, block her.
And as always, enjoy the rest of your evening, and God bless. It's good to have you guys here as always, and hopefully we see you on the next one.
Peace.
Peace.